I stared at the corner office that had been my second home for 37 years, watching the morning sun filter through those familiar windows one last time. At 63, I was walking away from everything I thought I'd ever wanted, and it was the most terrifying, exhilarating decision of my life. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. 3 years ago, I was sitting in that same office surrounded by awards, commendations, and the kind of career success that makes other people nod with approval. I was the senior vice president of marketing at a Fortune 500 company, earning more money than my younger self could have ever imagined. This was supposed to be my victory lap, the golden years where I'd coast toward retirement with respect, security, and all the trappings of professional achievement. But something was wrong, deeply, profoundly wrong. Every morning, I'd sit in bumper-to-bumper traffic, gripping my coffee cup a little too tightly, feeling this weight in my chest that I couldn't quite name. The meetings felt endless, the politics exhausting, and somewhere along the way, the work that once energized me had become this grinding routine that left me feeling hollow. I remember the exact moment everything shifted. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late September, and I was sitting through yet another quarterly review meeting. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and stress sweat, and everyone was arguing about market share percentages that, honestly, wouldn't matter in 5 years. I looked around that table at faces I'd known for decades, good people, trapped in the same hamster wheel I was running on, and I felt this overwhelming sadness wash over me. That's when it hit me. I was living someone else's definition of success. The realization was both liberating and terrifying. Here I was, in my 60s, finally understanding that the career I'd built so carefully, the one that looked so impressive on paper, wasn't actually mine anymore. It had become this thing I was carrying like a heavy coat I'd forgotten I could take off. But walking away, at 63, the practical voice in my head was screaming, what about health insurance? What about retirement savings? What about what people would think? My husband David was supportive but worried. We'd built our lifestyle around my income, and the idea of starting over felt impossible. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday in November. I was in back-to-back meetings from 7 a.m. until almost 8 p.m., and when I finally got to my car, I just sat there in the parking garage and cried. Not the polite tears you brush away quickly, but the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from years of suppressed grief. I was grieving the woman I used to be, the one who loved challenges and felt alive at work, before the bureaucracy and politics wore her down to nothing. That night, David found me staring out our kitchen window at 2 a.m., still in my work clothes. He didn't say anything at first, just made 2 cups of chamomile tea and sat beside me. Finally, he asked, "What would make you happy, Susan?" Not successful, not secure, not impressive, just happy. I couldn't answer him that night, but the question haunted me for weeks. I started paying attention to the moments when I felt most like myself. Saturday mornings when I'd tend to my vegetable garden, my hands deep in the soil, watching things grow. Sunday afternoons when I'd volunteer at the literacy center, helping adults learn to read, seeing their faces light up when letters finally became words. The quiet evenings when David and I would cook together. No agenda except enjoying each other's company. None of these things required a corner office or a 6-figure salary, but they filled me with something my job hadn't given me in years: purpose. The decision wasn't sudden. It was a slow unwinding, like loosening a knot that had been pulled too tight for too long. I started having conversations with David about what our life could look like. We ran the numbers, made plans, and slowly began to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could make this work. The day I submitted my resignation letter, my hands were shaking. My boss was stunned. People like me didn't just walk away from positions like this. Some colleagues thought I'd lost my mind. Others looked at me with something I realized was envy. But here's what I discovered in the months that followed. Freedom doesn't feel like I expected it to. I thought it would feel like relief, like exhaling after holding my breath for years. And it did, eventually. But first it felt like vertigo, like standing at the edge of a cliff, not sure if I was about to fall or fly. There were mornings when I'd wake up in a panic, wondering what I'd done. There were days when I missed the structure, the clear objectives, even the stress that at least made me feel important. But slowly, beautifully, I began to remember who I was underneath all those titles and responsibilities. I started a small consulting business, working with nonprofits on marketing strategies, using my skills in ways that felt meaningful. I expanded my volunteer work. David and I took that trip to Italy we've been talking about for 15 years. I learned to paint watercolors, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. Most importantly, I learned that it's never too late to redefine success. For 37 years, I'd measured my worth by external metrics: salary, title, office size, other people's approval. Now, at 66, I measure it by internal ones. Am I growing? Am I contributing something positive to the world? Do I feel aligned with my values? Am I present for the people I love? The answer to all of those questions is yes, in ways it never was when I was climbing that corporate ladder. I'm not going to pretend this choice is right for everyone, or that it's been without challenges. Financial planning required serious adjustments. Some relationships shifted when I was no longer the high-powered executive. There were identity questions I had to work through. If I wasn't my job title, then who was I? But here's what I want you to know, especially if you're watching this and feeling trapped in your own version of golden handcuffs. It's never too late to choose authenticity over approval. Your dreams don't have expiration dates. The voice inside you that's whispering, there has to be more than this. That voice is worth listening to. Maybe your version of walking away looks different than mine. Maybe it's changing careers or going back to school or finally writing that book, or moving somewhere that feeds your soul instead of just your bank account. Maybe it's simply giving yourself permission to want something different, even if you're not sure what that something is yet. What I know now that I wish I'd known at 50 or even 60 is this: the biggest risk isn't leaving what looks secure from the outside. It's staying in something that's slowly dimming your light from the inside. So tell me, what would make you happy? Not successful, not secure, not impressive, just genuinely deeply happy? Because I promise you, it's never too late to find out.